this will go out to this will go out to hundreds of worship leaders, but you're here helping us create this piece. So we love your input, want your hearts and your ideas, and thank you so much for being here.
And let me officially welcome you all to the Engaging the Heart Worship Collective. We're doing kind of a little reboot here. We've been in existence for a few years already as the Joe Hornets Worship Collective, but Joe doesn't want it all about him. He wants it all about God. So we're back as the Engaging the Heart Worship Collective, and we're going to have a great year this year. Today is a preview of all of that for you. My name's Diana Swillinger, and I love working alongside Joe as a co-host when he does all of his collective work. He is the, let's see, Karen, you're going to help me mute some people. Karen is here also, who is helping manage some of the things behind the scene. She is our administrative person for the Engaging the Hearts Worship Collective. So the collective has been around for a couple years now, but it's evolving. We've got so many great things going on this year. We wanted to do a preview to clue you all in. So I'm not just some random person. I have decades of worship leading in my background as well, though I'm not doing it anymore. So it's kind of fun to hang out with you all right now and serve alongside Joe, who was one of the mentors I never met. I used to go to Willow Creek all the time back in the day and learn from him, and he had no idea who I was. And so when I met him and had this opportunity, it was an immediate yes to work with Joe. So let me introduce Joe, and then we'll get into what we've got for you today. So in addition to creating this online community for worship leaders across the globe, anyone who wants to join can join. Joe has spent over 35 years leading worship ministries, including what many people know him as the worship director of Willow Creek Community Church in Chicago, where he and his teams led over 25,000 people week after week, bringing transformational worship. And he's partnered alongside internationally known artists such as Darlene Zschech, Tommy Walker, Abraham Laboriel. You're going to see a couple little video clips of some of them today. He's written songs that have been sung around the globe. I used to lead some of those songs too. He's a regular contributor to the Worship Leader magazine. And today, Joe Hornets is on a mission through this collective to empower churches and worship ministries everywhere to transform their worship, as he says, from song time into authentic, spiritually engaged worship to God. So say hello again, Joe. Hello.
Good morning, everybody. And again, I see so many names and faces of people I dearly, dearly love and respect. And I'm just so grateful you guys would be here. Some of you that know me can probably tell I'm not my usual handsome, wonderful looking self. I got a great case of pink eye from my grandkids and kids, and it's been going around the Grand Rapids area here. Um, so I'm trying to hide it with my glasses,
He's
but
not just crying the whole time.
no, yeah, I do that a lot, but not all today. But anyway, but we just felt like this was so important. We wanted to go forward with it anyway, and one of the passages that has really meant a lot to me over the last number of years is comes out of the book of Ezekiel, and many of us know the passage where God says, "I'm going to take your heart of stone and I'm going to turn it into a heart of flesh," and He does this in spite of the people's disobedience, their distance, their belligerence. And but the reason he gives right before that in Ezekiel 36 is he says, because I have concern for the honor of my name. And that passion for God to say this, I have concern for the honor of my name, is why we do what we do at Engaging the Heart. We want to help worship leaders and churches bring not just programming elements, not just do songs to get people in from the parking lot and so you can hand out the offering, and because you need something to keep people, to wake people up at the end of the message. We want to do worship that invites people into a genuine encounter with God that changes lives, changes hearts, changes congregations, and brings honor to his name. And so that's why we're here, and that's why we do what we do. It's why we're trying to make this completely affordable to any church that wants to be a part of this, and to just say we want to bring God a richer offering week after week. What would that look like? And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, Joe, when you and I were talking the other day, and I said, I want to ask you why you started the Engaging the Heart Worship Collective, you started to tell me a story about hanging out with Becky over that weekend long ago. Do you want to,
Yeah, one of the
and
ways
how did that connect to starting the Engaging the Heart Worship Collective? Tell us about that.
One of the ways I can best describe what I think worship should be about would be to tell you about a day that I wish I could redo in my life. Any of you got days like that where you go, "Yep, I'd like to redo that one." And we're sitting in my little two-bedroom house. It's getting darker and darker, and Becky's been there all day. And all day long, I've been thinking about these dozen roses that I have hidden under my bed, and a ring, an engagement ring that was tucked in with those roses. And I'd been putting off and putting off and putting off proposing to Becky until she finally said, "Are we going to do something with this, or are we just going to date forever?" And I kind of was like, "Well, the dating forever thing sounds good." And she's like, "No, that's not going to work." So, so I had these roses. I bought them on Friday, put this off all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and finally we get to the end of the day on Sunday, and the sick thought that went through my mind was, if we don't do this now, I'm going to have to do this all over again. I'm going to have to buy those roses again. So because I was too cheap to buy more roses, and with no creativity and no thought really, I went and pulled out these roses and brought them in. I said, "Oh, before you go," and brought them into the living room, and got down on one knee at least and said, "Would you marry me?" And fortunately for me, because of 36 years later, Becky said yes. But if she had known what was going on in my heart, what should she have probably said to me that day? She would have had every right to look at me and say, "What I say right now is going to change the rest of my life. Mm. It's going to change where I live, who my kids are, what every day is like. It's going to change the relationship, whatever relationship I'm going to be in forever." And she should have said, could have said, don't if this is all that this can muster from you, then you've missed the significance. You've missed the moment. You don't know what's happening here. And it's very similar to the interaction that Jesus has with the Pharisees in the New Testament, where he comes to them and he says, "You worship me with your lips and not your hearts, because your hearts are far from me." And then he follows it and he says, "In vain do you worship me." I just read an article this morning by somebody that was saying there shouldn't be emotion in worship. And I'm going, Jesus just says to them, you worship me with your lips, but not your hearts. You've missed the moment. You don't understand what's happening. And if your heart's not in it, then in vain do you worship me. He just basically saying, don't bother. And so my heart for us today, and about engaging the heart, even the title "Engaging the Heart," would be to say, think of worship as relationship, not programming. Let me give you a thought right now, just a question. Consider the church that you attend and walk through your mind your typical Sunday morning worship order. Now, it might be different for all of us, but if it's typical, and I work with churches all over the world, if it's typical, you probably have like a song or two to get people in from the parking lot. It's not about really getting people to engage and connect and talk to and hear from God. It's about getting people in from the parking lot. and getting them in their seats. And then you interrupt it, you do announcements. And then maybe you say at the end of announcements, we go, hey, we're going to receive the offering and you need something to sing during the offering. And then we do the message, and maybe there's a song before the message, and then you follow the message with another song. And in that, you go, we sing songs all day long, but we've missed the relationship. It's like me meeting with Becky that day and going, you know what? You misunderstood the moment that happens here. And what engaging the heart is all about is about us saying to churches, we want to help you move from singing songs to help you move to engaging hearts. Help your church engage with God, meet with God, hear from God, connect with God, and bring him the honor that his name deserves, and connect with him relationally in a way that changes our lives and changes our relationship with him. It's what he longs for, and it's what we need. And that's what this is all about.
I think I'm going to go from that. We wanted to, because this is a preview, we wanted to share some things that have already happened in the collective and some guests that might be coming back and such. So I'm going to share, just to bounce right off what you said, I want to share this video from when you interviewed Nancy Beach. I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. By the way, Nancy Beach is a program director. She has 2 books that you can get on Amazon about all about the Sunday Times. One's called An Hour on Sunday, and then her other book is called Next Sunday. So she's brilliant when it comes to, I'll just let the video speak for itself, but she's brilliant when it comes to this programming stuff. And listen to what she has to say. Same kind of thing Joe was talking about.
The time, and that we could laugh together in church. So moments are what we're after. I think it's a partnership with what we do and what we prepare, what we pray through, what we imagine. And as we look at the service on paper and we hope for a potential moment and we kind of build towards that. And then, of course, the work of the Holy Spirit. So it's not a human thing exclusively, it's a partnership. And when we prepare and when we pray through something, when we imagine something and we create what we hope is a potential moment, and then the Spirit steps in and does what only God can do, you walk away from those mornings, and they don't happen every week, at least not for me. But when you've had that kind of a moment, you walk away and you say, I can't believe we get to do this. Mm-hmm. I can't believe I get to partner with the God of the universe to touch somebody. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So Joe, that's a little bit about how to turn, what else do you have to say about how we turn just singing songs into truly engaging the heart?
Yeah, I just pulled this up this morning. I wanted to read this. Some years ago, I used to read the Psalms every day as a worship leader, just to learn from David, the best of all. And as I was going through the Psalms, every time the psalmist said something like, but yet I will worship you, or I was glad when they said, let me go into the house of the Lord. Every time the psalmist talked about worship, I tried to say, is there something that happened as a result of the worship? It wasn't about just getting people in from the parking lot or singing 2 songs or confession and then we have to have a response song. It was about the relationship. And when I wrote these down, the list that I ended up coming up with after going through the Psalms was when we genuinely worship, when we worship from our hearts and connect with God on a personal level, and an emotional level, what came out of that was the psalmists or the worshipers developed a yearning for God, joy, a passion for God's presence, increased faith, a love for God's word, comfort, increased love for God, adoration, exaltation, celebration, thanksgiving, praise, unity, and repentance was the list I came up with. And how many of us are walking into churches week after week after week, and our pastors are preaching their brains out, hoping that a few of those things will happen? And yet scripture's clear, when we engage emotionally and not just programming wise, but when we use worship in a way that helps us connect with the God of the universe relationally and personally and emotionally, and encounter him, this is what happens in the hearts of our people. And that's what Nancy was saying. When you realize, worship becomes, for me as a worship leader, when worship became something rather than picking 2 or 3 songs for a Sunday, and it became saying, how are you going to orchestrate this encounter between God and his people? How are you going to help them connect and meet together? And our team would do that together, and hearts would get changed, and moments would happen. Like, you could see the emotion in Nancy. You go, oh, that's why it's worth being a worship leader. That's why it's worth singing songs. It's not a concert. It's not about being, the coolest church on the block. It's not about trying to encourage more young people to come to your church. It's about creating an encounter between God and his people. And for some of us, I just wanted to add this for someone. I said earlier about think through the order of your church. One of the most challenging things, I think, for a lot of us is to rethink, to go, oh, how difficult will it be, or would it be, to talk to my pastor, my elders, and say, what if we didn't do the same order every week that we've been doing for the last 10 years? What if we could create a space of 3 or 4 songs where people connected with God? What if we added prayer or reflection in there? What if we didn't throw announcements and interrupt right in the middle? But those are the things you have to think about when we start to go, how do we move from singing songs to creating an encounter with God? How do we move from programming to relationship? That's what this is about.
So I want to ask you, Joe, I want to jump right off of that. You said
Yeah.
that day with Becky was the day you wished you had a do-over.
Yeah.
Did you get a do-over?
Yeah, it's a great follow-up, because 10 years later, I had lived with the most wonderful woman in the world for 10 years. And being around her wrecked me. Just amazed at her love, and that she would choose me. And so for our 10-year anniversary, I had a friend go out to Lake Michigan and go down the beach and hit a picnic basket with sparkling cider and a new ring and flowers and stuff. And he just told me he hit it down the beach somewhere. So we went out to Big Red here in Holland and I said, come on, let's go for a walk. And we walked down the beach, and we walked and we walked and we walked. And I started going, shoot, did I miss it? I must, I don't know where he hit it. And finally I went, oh, what's this over here behind the log? And we went over, and I was like, whew, here it is. But in that moment, I got down on my knees on that beach, and I gave her new roses and a new ring, and I was wrecked by the fact that she would do life with me and I said, would you marry me again? And fortunately for me, she said yes. But friends, that's where worship happens, is when we fall more and more and more in love with Jesus, when we're with him in ways that changes our hearts. Tommy Walker and I were together recently, and we got laughing and said the reason they don't let old worship leaders lead worship anymore is because we can't get through the songs. We've walked with Jesus long enough that we start singing and we just start crying, and we can't make it through it. So they have to hire young worship leaders that don't get wrecked emotionally. And we were laughing about it. And then right in the middle of the worship run, he stopped in the middle of a song, and he looked at me, he said, stop crying. You're making me cry. But But it's when we start, when we've walked with Jesus and we see who he is, and then we come and our corporate worship is a response to his love and his grace. Yeah, and that's, friends, what engaging the heart is all about, is helping churches go, well, how do we create services that lead people to that place?
Yeah. If I was running a church, I would hope my worship leader would cry at very important moments in the worship. I think that's beautiful. So, funny joke, but I think, for the people who've joined us in this and have been able to hang out with Joe, there's more of this. Joe brings this all the time, this authentic, like, I can't help but feel the emotion, not because of not Joe's emotion, but he makes me reflect on how much I love Jesus and how important he is in my life, and how now I want to get on my knees and worship just from hearing Joe tell some of those stories. And so for the worship leaders that come and hang out with him, they get to take that back to their churches week after week. So I'm just, I'm in awe of you, Joe, all the time, and so glad to be here supporting you. Okay, let me get us back to some of the things we're going to talk about. We talked about the difference between singing songs and engaging hearts. And we want to talk a little bit about something else we talk about a lot, how to create purpose in your worship. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, just maybe you're saving it for later. Do you want to show that clip from Tommy
Oh, I can
about,
do that right now. Yeah.
yeah, maybe it might be a good time
Since you mentioned
share
him.
that.
Now, here's one of those tech things. Mark could have told me how to get this video nice and crisp and clear, but we're just going to go with what I have.
You know, I think you need to discover who you are uniquely in Jesus. And the first and hugest way you'll ever discover that is by being with Jesus. Because it's interesting, the more time you spend with Jesus, the more you get to know what he's like and who he is. But what automatically happens is you discover how he wants to uniquely flow through you. You know,
All of these clips, by the way, are from interviews that happened at the collective. We had Tommy Walker for an hour and a half, and he even sang to us. It was incredible. So, yeah, what do you have to say about that clip from Tommy, Joe?
Well, yeah, just that sense of, yeah, I think one of our number one callings as worship leaders is to look at our services and say, are we crafting times when people encounter God, or are we just, filling in programming slots? The second piece comes just from what Tommy said and what we just talked about, that sense of being on the beach with Becky and going, I'm in awe. And it comes from time of just being people that walk with Jesus every day in a way that deepens our love for him, deepens our amazement for him. And so that when it comes time to paint people a picture of the God that we're meeting with, that it wrecks us, that we paint a richer, deeper picture of God. And that's what our services need to be about. And friends, when we come to services and people leave going, well, yep, we sang some songs and we took communion and we had announcements and a message. That's typical church these days. When we come and go, I encountered God and I met with him and I talked to him and I heard from him and I've felt his grace and his love and his presence. Then you go, that's the stuff that people come back and go, I want to feel that again. I want to know that again. Would somebody please help my church create those kind of moments for people, where I encounter God? Because that's what, again, I said it earlier, but it's what we are desperate for, and what God longs for is for us to connect with him on that kind of a level.
I love
So
how
some ways that
Tommy,
we do that. Go
oh,
ahead.
yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh no, you had asked about purpose, and
Yep.
and Matt Shepherdson, and there's some others here that were a part of our worship leading team at Willow for so long, dear friends. But one of the things that we started with every week was going, all right, let's not start. Let's don't ever put a pen to paper without putting our knees to the floor. And we would meet every Friday morning and we would spend the first 15, 20 minutes in prayer, just saying, God, where do you want to speak to us? What do you want to say? Where do you want us to lead people? But we would start planning the worship order with not filling in spots, but saying, where is it that we're trying to take people? Where is it that we want to go? And that would come out of those prayer times, and we would write it on the board. What was your sense? And we, week after week, would come up with a sense of going, I think God wants to take us here. And then we would craft a worship time that we would say, let's take people there. Then we had a box on the whiteboard that was called the toolbox, and we just said, how could we do that creatively? How do we get people off of autopilot? I watched a video clip just yesterday. Somebody had sent me of, it was a song kind of like Potter's Hand. It was that idea of being yielded to the potter as the clay, while they had a potter on stage who was forming a vase, and the video was zoomed in, and so while they're talking about saying, I want to be clay that's molded by you, you're watching this potter form clay, and it was so creative and it was so beautiful, and it moved me in a different way, and it got me off of autopilot and into going, yes, God, this is what I want for me. This is what I want my heart to be. Mm. This is what I want you to do to me, in me, through me. And then we lead from those times and we create those kind of moments. But I think creativity is a big part of it. And then under purpose, and then just creating meaning, find the songs that make you cry, find the moments that wreck you emotionally, and then build around those things so that our people encounter God in a meaningful, personal way. And then, if you take one thing from maybe today, then put all that together, and the phrase I would say would be, stop interrupting. Don't do two songs and then say, now we got to do announcements, and then do one song and say, now we got to take an offering, and then do a song at the end. We don't create space for people to meet with God. Rethink your service and say, how does this service become a place where we create encounters with God for people?
All right, I have one more clip I'm going to share that comes great out of that because Darlene was talking about that exact kind of encounter. So this was fun trying to coordinate with Darlene from Chuck from Australia. But we did a special evening worship collective that time to make it work. And here's part of what she had to say.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing, though, to remember that worship is always about Jesus being revealed in the room.
Mm.
It's not about us singing the latest 10 songs. The goal of worship is always Jesus. So I'll have those things in my heart and in my head, but I want people to not see me. Like, as quick as I can, I want to remove myself from the picture so that people see Jesus.
Mm. Yeah. I
Anything-
remember going to Darlene, because I was at Willow and got to work with Darlene when she would come. She had me come down to speak at one of their worship conferences one year. And I remember watching that happen session after session after session as she would stand up and start to lead. And it was never about her, but when she started to sing about her love for Christ and what Christ was doing in her, and her amazement at his grace. And, when Paul writes, I wish you knew the height and depth and the width and breadth of the love of God. And she would show that to us. And in the way she led. And I felt like I spent the whole conference crying, It just messed me up to be drawn into God's presence that deeply. And I remember just going, God, one time, would you let me lead worship that deeply, that authentically, that richly, and lead people that far into your presence that she did time after time after time. It's just amazing. And but um, but again, it's rethinking. We have to go back and look at our services, how we walk with Jesus to begin with, the songs and that we pick, the creativity we bring, the purpose that we bring to it, and the order of the way that we design our services so that people connect with God in a meaningful way. And these days, again, most of our services, however it's evolved, just don't do that. I lead churches all the time, and it's the same order every week. It's predictable. People know exactly what's going to happen. If they know you're not going to really engage with the first two songs, nothing really deep or meaningful spiritually is going to happen for the first two songs. Why should they show up on time? Why go, well, I got to be on time, so we sing a couple songs. But if they come and say, oh, there's something really creative, or there's a call to worship that paints me a picture of God, and then we go into this time of two or three songs that aren't interrupted, and they take me deep into God's presence, and we meet with him and we talk to him, and then you go, well, I don't want to miss that. That I'm going to show up for. And um and again, all we're trying to do, and I want to be clear, Diana said this a little bit ago, but we're not charging anything for this. We're saying to churches, and to whole regions and denominations, sign up every church you have to get coaching and mentoring every week, um, interviews with Darlene and Tommy and people like Brian Dirksen and others that we have lined up for this next year, and about songwriting and worshiping. Come get interviews, get teaching, have Q&A, and learn from each other. And we'll talk about community in a second, but and you pay us whatever free will offering you can afford, you think it's worth to your church, because we're not here about trying to make money. We're here going, we want to help churches create richer offerings for God week after week. That's what this is all about. And hopefully some of this, for those of us that are here, is helpful in think as how we think about that.
Yeah, we will talk about how you can be a part of the collective coming up in just a few minutes. So the three things we were going to hit on is the difference between singing songs and engaging hearts. Did that. How to create purpose in your worship. Did that. Last question for you, Joe, is how can people, worship leaders, ministry leaders, develop a thriving worship ministry team without burning out?
Yeah, and I'm much older than I used to be when I was leading with some of the wonderful people that are here today, and Matt Shepherdson and others, but I bet every person that uh, that would look back at the years that we spent crafting these kind of times week after week, what remains is community. What I mean, we've been talking about relationship, our personal relationship with God. How do we walk with him in a way that flows so that he can flow through us? Our relationship with the congregation in God. How do we craft times where that happens? And our relationship with each other, in community, the showing up for each other, the being there together. Recently led a funeral for a woman that had been part of our band and team at Willow, and the people that showed up there, and the minute we walked in was instant community with each other as we remembered her life and celebrated being together, and our love for each other. Is that those moments of being together but that sense too, friends, of just going, you don't have to do this alone. I remember I spent 10 years at a church in northern Michigan, and I remember coming home one time and pulling up in front of my garage door and sitting in the car. And I remember thinking, I wish I could get sick because I was so tired. I wanted an excuse to not have to go to work for a couple days because I was so emotionally, spiritually, physically, personally exhausted. And I thought, what kind of a sad thought is that? I wish I'm sitting here, wish I could get sick. And that shouldn't happen to any worship leader. There should be a community of other worship leaders where you're going, what songs are you singing these days? What's working? Oh, we just came across this, and this song, just the church responds to it, and oh, we're loving this. Oh, well, thank you for saving me. I don't have to go listen to 50 songs to find that song. Thank you. What happens what have you done creatively? What are you doing with your vocal team to keep them alive and fresh? And how are you doing scheduling these days? There are so many things where we can draw from each other and go, we don't have to do this alone. Same thing with, when you think of services like Easter and Christmas and going, what are you doing? How could we draw from each other and spur each other on to love and good works and creativity? Had a guy tell me a while back, he goes, we sent the band home, gave them all a week off, and I had 3 acoustic guitars across the front of the stage and a conga player. And we did something fresh. I see Mark Foss's name come up, going, what did you do with your Mark is a brilliant tech guy and creates, what can you do with your stage to make it look nice, to create an atmosphere where people just go, oh, you can tell they value worship here because they create a space that is just wonderful to be in. But how do Mark can share books of pictures, of ideas, of things that he's created and done on stage that we all can draw from, that you go, oh, that's easy enough to do. I could do that. In a lot of cases, it's as easy as going, you know what? Don't use your stage as your garage, you know, get the extra instruments and music stands and stuff off your stage. Find a room somewhere in your church. Get the mic stands off. Tape your cords down. Well, I used to have a guy that one of our tech directors, he always he used the phrase, "A clean stage is a happy stage," and he's just going, tape the cords down, make it look nice, make it look neat. Let's create an environment that's inviting to the worship experience we want people to have. And so it's those kind of things of saying we could do this in community. We can show up for each other. We can love each other. We can encourage each other. We can give each other ideas, and let's draw from each other's best practices. So the best thing that you did last month becomes the best thing that I'm going to do next month. And our church has experience after experience after experience of being in the presence of God in fresh ways because we're learning and drawing from each other. And that's the fun. Then it's doing it in community together.
Yeah, I have so many memories in my head from the couple of years that we've done the collective already, where we talk about Easter, talk about Christmas, or just talk about creative stuff. And people would come back the next week because in the collective, we meet like this. You can see everybody. And you guys can use the chat and put ideas in there. And so people would come back and share like, oh, hey, so-and-so, what you said a month ago, we did that just this Sunday. Let me tell you how it went. And there was so much energy and excitement about all this idea sharing, which takes so much weight off of everybody to have community. Because when you're just in your own church, you're the worship ministry leader and you're the only worship ministry leader or director or pastor. There's just one of you. But when we come together in the collective, there's dozens of us getting together a few times a month and sharing ideas. And it's just a beautiful thing I've loved being a part of and seeing all that support and encouragement. And I know Joe and I talk a lot, and even aside from just being in the little collective space here, when he's out at other churches and he's ministering to pastors and filling in for worship, people are asking him all the time, can you help me learn how to engage the hearts of the people in my congregation? And with the collective, he gets to say yes every single time. That is why the collective exists. So today's preview has been, some of you are already members, and this is getting you excited for when we start up again in February. And it meets on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Others of you haven't been a part of it yet. So the things that we do is Joe will teach once a month. We have a guest come in, like the guest videos you've seen today. Usually once a month, there's Q&A time, or like community, like let's just come together and bounce off ideas off each other, ask Joe and other people questions, and get great conversations going. And then we've added where you can have one-on-one coaching with Joe on an as needed basis. If you're stressed out, if you need prayer, if you need ideas, if you just want to talk to somebody who's done this for decades. Sorry, Joe, it's true, decades, but he has a lot of wisdom and experience, and he's willing to sit down with you and have those one-on-one conversations. So I hope everyone who came to check out the collective today will be a part of it. It's a community of like-minded churches, like-minded ministry volunteers and ministry leaders, people just like you that want to go deeper in the worship that they're offering to God and bring the congregation with them, people who want more collaboration on their teams, if you want to have less stress in the work you do, if you want all of it to just be bringing people to the feet of Jesus and knowing you're accomplishing that, this is the kind of stuff you do. It also doesn't matter if you're brand new, like I just started worship leading and I have no idea what I'm doing, or you've been doing it for a little while and it's going okay, or you've been doing it for a long time and either it's good or you're totally stressed out or somewhere in between. It doesn't matter what stage you're in. What we offer at the collective is going to have something for everybody in those positions. We want to help you bring to fruition what you want to create in your ministry at your church. So you are all invited to join. So like Joe, I'll tell you about what Joe was talking about before, when he said you can join for free, basically. If you are a part of more than one church, there's more than just you. There's an association, or there's a region of churches, or you're like got these sister churches and there's a cluster of you, you can all come together and join as one group, one collective, one association, one region for one goodwill offering. We are not naming that for you. We don't know your budget. And he's like, how can we have no barrier for people to join the collective? And so this is what we came up with. So Karen's going to drop in the chat Joe's email. If you're a part of a group of churches and you want to figure out how all of your churches can join, and it's not just the one worship ministry leader, you can have your volunteer leaders show up when they can, you can have your sound people show up when they can, the drummer can show up when they can, your pastor can show up when they can, your elders can show up when they can. Everyone who's a part of your church, if you're a member or your association's member, anyone related to your worship ministry can show up whenever you want. Here, I didn't see that. I'm going to drop it in Joe's email. I didn't see it go in the chat there.
I'm having a technical difficulty.
Oh, technical. It's joehornis@gmail.com. Just type it in.
Just Jay Hornis.
Oh, that's right. jhornis@gmail.com. I'm going to type it in. Oh, there it is. Karen's keyboard ran out of juice. Now it's back online. Okay. So yeah, if it's a region of churches, an association, a cluster of churches, whatever you call it, one goodwill offering, and you all can join. And all you have to do is email Joe and work that out. We want you to be a part of it. No reason not to. If you are a church all by yourself, and you're like, oh, I don't have a group. So what do? Do I still make a free goodwill offering, make a goodwill offering? We have a website you can go to sign up, and we have a crazy discount. Usually one church can join for $997 a year, and that's what churches have been paying so far. This year, it's reduced to only $350. So for an entire year, You can come meet every week with us, get all of the teaching from worship leaders around the globe, and get one-on-one coaching with Joe and everything else for only $350 for the year. And I think, Joe, I might be right saying this. If that somehow you're like, I still can't do it, there's absolutely no way my church can join. Email Joe and
Yeah,
talk to
we're
him
not
about how
turning
you can be a
anybody
part of it.
away.
Yeah.
And for the some of you who go that some of the feedback we got in previous years was every week is too much, you know. That's why we went to first week of the month is usually an interview. Second week of the month is Q&A and idea sharing. The third week of the month is usually me teaching worship leading and team building skills. And then the fourth week of the month, you can sign up on Calendly for a one-on-one call with me if you want. And, you know, or an issue, something you're facing, something you just want to talk about in private, whatever. And so you can attend as many or a few of those as you want. And you go, oh, I like the interview this week, or I would like a call with Joe this week. And if you don't, then you go, well, I got that week. So I can attend once a month or twice a month. We're just trying to be available to serve you and to serve your churches. But wouldn't it be awesome if we went, man, a year from now, there's 100 churches. We started off saying, God saying, I have concern for the honor of my name. And if a year from now, he said, there's 100 churches that are bringing God a richer, deeper offering of worship. Week after week, people's hearts are being touched. They're connecting with God. They're being wrecked by his grace. And they're meeting with him, and they keep showing up because they connect with the God of the universe who loves and them incredibly. You know, I mean, if we could just help churches bring God a richer offering week after week, would that's worthy of our time. And that's all, and that's what we're trying to do this. And friends, if you know of a church that could use help, especially young worship leaders that go, we need they just need coaching, or if you know of a denomination, or if you go to your regional director in, you know, you're part of the Wesleyan church and you go to your regional director and say, you know, they're saying we could sign up 150 churches in our region for $50 if we want. And you go, yep, that's the truth. Let them know. Give them this video, and because you're signed up, we will send you this video, and you can forward it to everybody on your list and just say, hey, did you know that this is available to help your church grow in worship? We just want God to be honored on a deeper level, and we could all do that.
Yeah. I don't see why any church who knows about this wouldn't want to join. Again, we've wanted to take every barrier away. Joe said to me this week, this is not, let's just tell everybody, this is not a profit-making endeavor. It's not. This isn't being run like a for-profit business. This is a ministry, because when Joe stopped being on staff week after week as a worship leader, it was just on his heart, like, how can I still serve? I have so much to give. How can I serve? And that's why the collective is here. He just wants to be a part of bringing glory to God's name. And the quality of what he brings is outstanding. I hope that you all will share it out with as many people as you can think of who need it. And let's change worship around the globe. I like to think about what this can do for us in our churches. So let me offer this to you. Just envision what a future where you are completely supported in your worship ministry and collaborating with worship leaders everywhere can do for you. So picture a day when you can walk into your church on a Sunday morning and you don't feel stressed. No stress, because your team's working in harmony. Picture a day when a congregation member comes up to you and says, thank you for worship. It's been so instrumental in my faith. God is using you. I don't think we hear that enough. Let's hear that more. Picture a day when you're leading with your team, feels collaborative, it feels creative, it feels like a genuine sacrifice, and you know that God's being glorified in this place. That is what the collective is all about. We want to come alongside of you all and equip you and your teams and support you, encourage you, cheer you on, whatever it is that you need. So, and it doesn't matter what stage you are in the ministry. And if you even think you want to show up here because you don't know what you would get from this, but you'd like to show up and be a part of the people that encourage and speak into other worship leaders, you are welcome to. So I hope you'll all take us up on it. We're going to do a question and answer too, but I'll just, before we open it up to any kind of questions goes, anything is fine. So if you're part of a group of churches, email Joe and figure out how all of your group or association or region can join. And a goodwill offering or whatever it's called, just whatever works for the budget is great. We want to work with you. And if you're a single church, you can sign up right now for $350. And but if that's an issue, just please email Joe and let him know. And I hope you all will just give it a try. I don't think you're gonna regret being a part of the collective and what Joe's put together here for you. So I think we're gonna open it up to questions. And there might have been one. Oh, can the whole team log in? Excuse me, log in. I don't know what that is. Joe, can the whole team log in and participate on a Thursday?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And as you said this earlier, mentioned it, but this is for your whole church. You know, if you want to get on a coaching call with your pastor and you and me, where we talk about, Pastor, you know, are you willing to create moments for your church rather than stick to the structure that you've done for the last 10 years? You know, your elders can be a part of it, your whole team, and we record all of these. If we do an interview with Darlene and you go, oh, she said some things I want my whole worship team to see, and you want to bring it to rehearsal, and you go, guys, before we start rehearsal tonight, I want you to hear these things from Darlene Check. You can play that recording. It's for your whole team, for you, for your whole church. Absolutely. Any way we can serve you.
You can also unmute and ask questions if you have a question.
Yeah, and Shep and Mark, if some of you guys, if you got any comments or thoughts, feel free to pop on. Or Ryan.
I'm going to read one comment while they're all thinking about, and then Matt, you can go next. But Mark Foss put in the chat, everything about this makes me love God more for allowing me the blessing of calling Joe my friend and mentor.
Mm-hmm.
I love how God used Joe to engage my heart, to know and love him more, and then learn to serve God as a technical artist. I have so many memories of exactly how God used Joe in my life to do exactly this. Blessed to continue to serve with him. Just very blessed. Thanks for that, Mark.
That's just a quick follow up on that too. One of the things that we'll have tech experts like Mark and others on too, to help your tech teams feel a part of the worship team and know how to better support you technically with sound and video and those kind of things. So we do that training here too.
Yeah, before I have to jump off, I just want to say, that every time I get to spend time with Joe and in community with others that are in the little pod, it's always a challenge to me. I always walk away learning or relearning or remembering, because I'm old, something that has meaningful application in multiple areas of my life, not for 30 minutes on Sunday, but throughout the week. And I'm proud of Joey, and I hope that everybody becomes part of the collective and sticks on.
Yeah. Thank you, Shep. Love you, bro. Very much. Yeah, and friends, if there's ever a time in church history, I can't speak for all of church history, but where the church needs to refocus on who Jesus is, because there are so many opinions about so many things these days. And the one thing that remains is when we come back and we go, but his grace is sufficient. His love is enough, and his character, his heart, his humility, his tenderness, his servanthood. When we come back and go, what is it that Jesus taught us, and what does it mean to draw near to him? If there was ever a time that the church needed worship leaders to draw us back to that place, this is the time, you know.
Amen to that.
Hey,
Got a lot
can
of,
I add something to that, Diana?
hey, Mark, go for it.
Hey, so Joe, it's been 40 years since the volleyball court in Michigan. I just figured that out today.
Mm.
What's cool about this is that the title of this whole collective is Engaging the Heart. And yes, you're talking about worship leaders and you're talking about what happens and doing that. But I think and if I can be so bold, Joe, is to say, I think it stems to the worship team as a whole, the technical artists who do the audio, do the lighting. And yes, I'm very bent towards that because that's who God geared me to be. But what I love about what you keep bringing up and the things that you keep talking, and you're getting me doing this, so thanks, is that you find ways to help those who are behind the scenes be a part of the process of engaging their hearts to engage those in the congregation to meet with God in a unique way. And as I said in the comment, it's been a very large blessing to be a part of that with you for so many years. I look at Kelly Davis and, I think back to the time we had with that church, and that's where I met Diana. That's the cool thing, is that it's not just about the onstage stuff. It's about the relationships that you develop with your people, doing life, being real, engaging discipleship with them. And I'm looking forward to another 40 years with you, buddy.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Thanks, man.
I won't ask how old you guys will be then. All right.
No, we're not going there.
Kyle Dillard put in the chat, I have so many Joe stories where his humility as my leader and mentor changed my perspective of following Jesus. I was always better after I had some time with Joe. Leading worship beside him was always so humbling. Love this guy so much. Thanks, Joe. Yeah. I mean, it's testimonials of what you're going to get in the collective, the authenticity and wisdom and heart that Joe brought for you today is the flavor of the entire Engaging the Heart collective. And so we really look forward to all of you being a part of that.
Yeah.
Any other questions, or does anyone need help with anything before we end today? I'm assuming everyone's going to sign up or email Joe. I think those are the only two options, because if you are a worship leader, you're the only one at your church and you're trying to do this in a bubble, you don't have to do that anymore. We're here to support you, and you're not going to regret being a part of the community. There's so much love, encouragement, and wisdom and creativity and ideas. So
and again, just if you know of churches that could use help, or churches in your district that you go, I'm sending this out to every church, to my district leader, and having them make sure that this video gets to every church. I think you catch the idea of what this could be for you, for your church, but for every church in your denomination. And if you can share this with somebody, share it with them. And I mean, the goal is we're not making money off of this. The goal is to go, how many churches could we help bring God a richer offering? And that's what we want to do. So just share it with anybody that'll listen.
all right, the last thing before we go, I want to share, I don't think we shared the day and time we usually meet, so that was an oversight by me. But we meet on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Do the math to figure out the other time zones that you might be from. And Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we're starting on February 13th. February is going to be just like everyone get their feet wet again month, because we've been off for several months in the collective. And so we're going to come back together. We're going to have introductions. We're going to build a community and get in the groove, and then start full force with, a guest interview in March. And and get going. So also, if you want to see a little bit more about what it's like, that link, that individual church sign up link, that will also just take you to the page that tells you a lot more details about the collective, when we meet, what to expect. And that's engagingtheheartministries.com. Any final words, Joe?
Nope. I've been quietly praying, say, Holy Spirit, is there anything else you want to say? And I think we've said what we hope to say, and we trust God then just to take this and use it. Thank you to all of you. You know, every one of you, that how grateful I am for your friendships, for your just showing up. And I pray in some way God would take this and just let people know that this is available, and use it in a way that honors him. So thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. Please reach out if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you when the collective kicks off on February 13th. Have a great day, everyone.
Blessings, you guys. Thank you.
Love you, buddy.
Love you guys too. Thanks.